Hello, Tungsten Miner here. Today I thought I would do something a little different. Normally, I wait until I've finished a project and then I make a video just kind of walking through what I've done. Well, this time I thought I'd try getting a little ways into a project and then making the video while I'm finishing it up. Um, don't really know if this will be interesting to watch. I kind of generally have thought that it wouldn't be, but hey, you can tell me. If you think this is an interesting format, you'd like to see more of this, then tell me so in the comments. And if not, then, well, I'll go back to what I was doing before. So anyway, to introduce the project here, obviously I'm in the one room that I've gotten pretty well finished in. And what I'm trying to do is to figure out exactly how I want to finish off the roof and ceiling of the room here. So what I've done to start with is strip back the white hardened clay to expose all of the studs and joists and everything. I've gone ahead and added a little bit of a support crossbeam here to support this beam going across, which is of course supporting all the joists, supporting the flooring up above. And what I now need to figure out is exactly how am I going to put in a roof here. So I've picked up some materials that I think will be interesting. And this is just dacite cobblestone, but my guess is that when I put it up as a plane here, that's one thing I hadn't really thought through. What I don't want to do is eat into this next 1 meter down, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3 meters, 4 meters that the room is made up of, and you can see that fourth meter goes right up to, I think, there, which means the crossbeam, oh, I'm burning up here, hang on. As much as I want Quiet Countryside to be a mod pack that allows for building without too much distractions, I have added in enough realism that occasionally I'm interrupted and I have to go take care of business. Okay, now hopefully that armor will cool me down a bit. Yeah, so as we can see here, this beam is intersecting directly, can't really see very well, with this block right here. Which means, of course, if I add another 1 bit down, that beam is going to push that 1 bit into the rest of the room, which is actually not what I want. So, what am I going to do? Am I going to allow that to happen and say that last little bit of the top meter is not usable? Or am I going to push this beam up a little bit and say that, yeah, there we go, that's good, the heat is getting lower. Or that I can put the ceiling into that area up there. Now, I was kind of also thinking of doing some interesting stuff with maybe a nested ceiling and some trim around the sides. So, and I've got 3 meters already. I don't know as I'd make much use of a 4th meter in here. On the other hand, I did want to make this probably a machine room or a storage room, and so having that extra 4th meter probably is going to be important. So I'm going to say I need to trim these back. So fortunately on these parts, that's going to be as easy as just doing this here. And the same over here. And then I'm going to have to get a little bit closer up here to decide what to do with this. So obviously that changes. And that goes away. I think the rest of this is probably fine. So we'll just leave that as it is. And we'll get rid of you. And we'll get rid of you. Yeah, yeah. You. And you. And you. And you. Nope, that was wrong. There we go. Okay. So that gives me a little extra room here to put the ceiling in. And I wanted to put in this. So now I'm going to switch to a full plane and just drop that there. That goes all the way across. Now I'm going to want to extend this across this ceiling. So let's see here. Probably the best bet is to do this. Gives you that. So the reason why I can't just copy something I've already got is that there's that beam in the middle of it, which I don't want to copy. So I need to be a little more careful here. Not made easier by the fact that this is pretty far away. Normally I'd get a lot closer. How are we doing there? Okay, so now that I've got a full 1 meter by 1 meter here, I can just copy that, and I'm going to say additive, and just bring this right across the whole ceiling. Now, of course, I can't do this with the beam here because I don't want to get rid of my beam. But fortunately, I do have the other beam over there. And probably, since this is additive, it would actually work just fine. Because, oh, you know, I was turned the wrong way around there. Oh, bother. I was facing this way, I think, yeah. So you can see I run out of material there, which just means I need to run downstairs. So as you probably recall from my previous videos, I have a storeroom down here where I've laid out a bunch of blocks ahead of time, and that saves me having to do that each and every time. I'm using a lot of that too, so I might as well grab those. One addition, or change I guess, that I've made is I went into the config files and changed the capacity of the Chisel Bit Bag so that each stack can be 4096, which of course is the number of bits you get from one complete block. And that way what I've got here is each of these cells in the bag can have one block's worth of bits. And I try to keep things as realistic as possible, but this whole thing is pretty contrived, and it certainly makes it a whole lot easier. Oh, you see, I did the wrong thing on that one too. Not to worry. This is a not infrequent occurrence that you do the wrong thing, and just gotta go clean it up. And now I've completely forgotten which way around I had these things. So I'm just going to clear out my patterns here and just make some new ones. And I'm going to make one of them on the beam and one of them off of the beam. Not that it makes a lot of difference when you set them to additive mode. So remember, in additive mode, it's not going to take away any bits that are placed already. It's just going to look around and say, is there anything that is in the pattern which is not also in your actual block that's available in the world there. And it will add in the missing pieces without changing anything that's there already. Now I've been doing something wrong. Okay, so that looked all right. Oh, I got everything all screwed up here. Did I? No, I didn't. All right. Yes. And actually, one of the other tricks I do, which I think I'm going to do right now, is this. So I've now placed this down, and instead of proceeding with patterns that might have extra things in them I don't want, and then have to worry about whether I've gotten them in the right places or not, I'm going to take this pattern that I copied off the ceiling, get rid of the joists, get rid of the subfloor up above, and now I've got a pattern which just has that ceiling material on the very, very bottom of the block. And now I'm going to copy it, and you can see that pattern has just the bottom piece. I'm going to set that to additive, and now it doesn't matter at all because I can poke this turned around in any direction I want. I can poke this on whatever blocks happen to be there already and whatever they happen to have on them. Completely irrelevant, just going to pop them right in. So toss this in here. Okay, lovely. And then, see how well this works. This is often not the best plan because now I've got to go remove a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't have had to do otherwise, but this should go pretty quickly, I should think. I may wind up regretting this, we'll see. Oops, that's in the wrong place. Sorry, not much of it to talk about. Just a slightly dull, repetitious part of this job. Okay, so now let's go back upstairs and get rid of the excess. So you almost always want to trim with this connected plane tool. Yeah, see, that took off a little too much. So I'll have to go think about. Matter of fact, I think this is trimming off absolutely everything that I just added on. Is that really the best way? Yeah, I think it is, unfortunately. Because what I should have done is put in the drywall part first, because that would have done exactly what this just did, which is only trim off the bits that come up to the drywall. So, unfortunately, I'm just going to have to remove all of this stuff I just added. What did I just remove? Fortunately, the removing part goes pretty fast. Yeah, so I'd hate for anybody to walk away with the impression of watching my videos that I always get this right the first time. The truth is I very seldom get it right exactly the first time. And a lot of what goes on is having a general notion of what I'd like to accomplish, and then trying something out and seeing that it kind of got close but not quite there, and trying something else out and getting a little bit closer and keeping at it, being persistent. Okay, so we're back to here, except somehow I managed not to get that piece, nor that piece. Yeah, that's probably why. Okay, well, I've got the bulk of the ceiling in any case. So let's try doing this. and putting those walls back in place. So what I'm trying to do here is just touch the edges of the studs, and that gives me a surface on which to place the plane. That's what happens if you miss. So you've noticed I use this undo feature a lot. Now in these corners, you can't quite do the same thing, because if you did, you'd wind up with that piece that you didn't want. So I'm going to do that for the time being, and then I'll go back upstairs and you can see how I fix that up. In the meantime, yeah, that looks right. That gap is actually the gap where the ceiling ought to go. Toss that in there. Oops. Mr. Arena is one of the other players on the server. Okay, so now back upstairs, and we'll go clean out that extra little bit there on the corners. Right, so what I'm going to do is use the line tool to carve off just that part where I don't want it. And now that they're separated, I can change to the connected material tool and get both one side and the other, leaving behind all the bits that I did want. And now, again using the line tool, I can drop in a line to differentiate that from the corner, and then use the connected tool here to fill in the last of the gap. And I did the same thing over here. Use the line tool to separate. And actually need to do the same thing over here, because that's another room that does in fact have its own drywall. Move that. Now I need the line tool again. Not sure what I got there. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that part from down below. It's a little too hard to aim from way up here. Yeah, I think I needed to put in that little piece there. So what I'm going to do instead is just make a little pattern of that corner there, turn it to additive, and pop it up there. Now, each of the corners in this room are actually different shapes, because some are internal walls and some are external walls and some are a combination of both. So can't quite just copy everything around. But fortunately, everything is the same from 1 meter to the next in this part of the wall. So now I need to figure out what's the easiest way to extend this over to the wall there. So what I think I will do is grab this guy, toss him in there, and then make a copy of that whole thing. There we go. And then place it down. Okay, so now we can see a bit of what's going on here. What I really want is to line up with this guy. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's split him over. Now, don't want any of the brick or the spruce or the birch, and I want to get rid of that, and that, which leaves me with just this tiny little sliver, which I can now copy and put into Additive Mode and just drop into the gap there. I'm going to do this in this corner knowing full well I have to carve a piece of it off again. But as I go around, even though I'm changing directions, since I've only got that one little piece of ceiling tile there, I know it should be just fine. I keep getting caught in the doorways, that's what it is. I'm sure it's not just me, but I keep tilting my head over. So I want to lean into it and be able to see better. I'm actually sitting here in my chair leaning over. Okay. So, got all those pieces. That looks decently good. I'm actually pretty pleased with that. So, let's clean the dirt out of the room here. Not too bad. Oops, looks like I missed a spot. I want that one. Clean you up. Okay, and now I want to do the same trim that I did elsewhere. So I'm going to take my 2 dots there, and then I'm going to extend that with my full meter size there. And now I've got one of those. Grab this, go grab that chunk of a wall. I usually use a dirt block to anchor these things because it makes it really, really easy to see when you've got you know, a contrast. And so now, clear out that, come around here again, reuse this pattern, grab that, and I'm going to say additive, and just go all the way around. And again, I'll have to clean up that little piece there. But once you've got a system, these things can go pretty fast. It's not that much slower than doing this with regular vanilla blocks. All right. So now we've got a full room with trim above and below, something very simple. I will certainly be considering doing more decorative things in the rest of the house, but I find the priority is really to get the space finished without getting too elaborate. Getting too elaborate means you kind of never finish. So get this done first, and now that I've gotten this straightened out, I can copy this pattern into the rest of the house, and then maybe come back to this room and do something different and redecorate. Remember, of course, with the way that I've been constructing things here, redecorating a whole room goes pretty quickly, right? I can just tear off the wall and lay down some new material, maybe frame in something different or put in a window or whatever it is that I want to do. That's actually not very hard to do at all. I find if you do this very, very quickly, your cursor doesn't jump back to the middle, so you can do a bunch of them all at once. Yeah, so I've just got my little bits of cleanup to do, which I can get started on now. And that's kind of it. I need to put the wall back in a few places, remove a few pieces that I don't actually want. But now that I've filled in the rest of the spaces, this should be pretty easy to do. There we go. That gives you that. Oh, I think I pulled off a little bit too much there. So I can just take this, and probably easiest to just use this tool. Fill that back in. Anyway, I won't make you watch all that. I'll go do that later. Anyway, so that'll be it for this time. As I said when I started, this is kind of a different approach. Normally I don't make you watch the tedious parts. But if you don't find them tedious and you'd like to see more of the actual constructing and the problem solving and figuring things out, then let me know in the comments and I'll do more videos like that. If, on the other hand, you'd like me to just get to the point and show you how I got to the end product, then I'm perfectly happy to do that too. Just let me know. Anyway, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see when the next one's ready, hit subscribe. And I will talk to you later.